Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I have to talk about skill-based matchmaking, unfortunately, and today's video is going to be much spicier than normal. I'm going to put a cursing warning here in the beginning. If you're watching this near small children or in a family setting, I will curse more than is usual for my videos, which are typically quite clean. With a heavy heart, I must once again wade into the cesspool that is the ignorance of skill-based matchmaking in the Call of Duty community. If you are one of the few people living under a rock that haven't heard of it, skill-based matchmaking, or SBMM for short, is the belief that Call of Duty matches you with equally skilled players, and more importantly that it does this matching to the detriment of your connection, your enjoyment, and every single game you're going to be playing MLG S&D stars on round 11 that are just like little gods. I have addressed the issue multiple times in the past. I think I'm the only YouTuber that's done any reasonable study or testing of this other than experiential ones. I have links to both of those videos below. I think combined they're about 20 minutes each, so 40 total in length. And it is the best possible info that you can get if you really want to understand skill-based matchmaking. But this whole topic irritates me to no end because it's based on shitty science. The majority of skill-based matchmaking discussions are the community just wanting something to scapegoat, wanting something to be mad about, and wanting something to bitch about. They need a focal point for all their bitching. This whole topic does not revolve around science. It does not revolve around testing or data or anything like that. It is 100% about feelings. It comes straight from the heart or from all the chemicals awash in young teens' brains or whatever. So today's video is going to be a lot more feeling-based than what you normally get on this channel. I've got facts too to back this up, but if everybody else wants to argue feelings, then fuck it, I'm going to do the same thing. The whole thing started with me getting into an argument with Sour Patch Adults over his test video. He's a great YouTuber. I don't have any issues with him whatsoever. Right now, the video is #1 on Reddit. Good job for him. I wish I was good enough to do that, but I don't think they like me there anymore. And I'm sure that his YouTube video will get a ton of views in the long run. The original description of it had a lot more stuff about finding definitive proof of hard skill-based matchmaking, but as we talked on Twitter, he's since scaled back his claims and said that he's just got a very good anecdotal story and little test there, which is true. The video, which is going around, and there's other videos on Reddit of people doing very similar things, is essentially proof that reverse boosting works. If you're unfamiliar with reverse boosting, that's when you kill yourself a whole ton of times, just over and over and over again, to completely tank your score per minute and KD and everything, and ruin everything about your stats, so that the game thinks that you're a worse player than you are, and it puts you in easier lobbies. I ended up getting into a fairly heated argument with Swag on Twitter because he knows that skill-based matchmaking exists. Everybody knows it. They just know it. I'm just ignorant. How do they know it? Well, he and everybody else can just feel it. I feel the skill-based matchmaking washing over my body. If you were a good player, Drifter, if you were born with thumbs and you didn't suck so many dicks, maybe you could feel it too. Well, that's the kind of things that I've been getting from the community a lot, and it's an argument that I fucking despise for anything when it comes to science or data or any complicated topics like an insanely complex matchmaking algorithm, because it's an argument that doesn't have anything to do with reality. It's literally your feelings. People feel that energy from crystals heals them. There is no energy from crystals, and it doesn't heal them. Also, if you live in Sedona, Arizona, don't grind up the crystals and drink them. That's a liability for the shops. People feel that essential oils heal them. They don't. Essential oils don't help you. If you use them, you're getting scammed. People feel that those little ionic power bracelets that you put on your arm will help with your back pain or your balance or whatever. They literally don't. They're too weak to interact with your body in any capacity. They do nothing, but you feel it because it's a placebo. And I do believe that feelings are a wonderful tool that can be used in a scientific study. Primarily, it should be the start of a study. I feel that something is wrong. I think that something wrong. I have this anecdotal experience. I know this thing. I've experienced this thing. I want to take a look at it. And that's great. That's where you want to start. You want to investigate the things that people are feeling and understanding. But using feelings to try to get actual, like factual, scientific results is a piss poor method because they're not going to find anything. For example, my last day of the beta was very sweaty. In some sense, you could say that I felt it too. You can go watch my Mixer stream. I even talked about it. I was making jokes like, is skill-based matchmaking on? Blah, 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 blah. But despite me feeling that the lobbies were harder, I don't make decisions based on reality because of my feels. I make reality decisions based on science versus data, something I can test, something tangible that I can touch and understand, because I don't want to screw things up in my life. That doesn't just apply to gaming, that applies to everything. I ended up getting into an argument with 8 Thoughts on Twitter because he said I had to be an Activision shill not to believe in skill-based matchmaking, as if it's some kind of fucking religion now. And I'm sure that'll be his next video because I was pretty rude to him. But this kind of logic is flawed, it's backwards, it's hokey, it's witch doctors and fortune tellers kind of stuff, and it's the opposite of everything that I believe, so when I run into it, it kind of pisses me off. I know that I make political videos in this channel and I mix the two up and stuff, but it's pure ignorance, the exact same kind of ignorance that you see in the real world, and it's depressing to see it in my little gaming bubble. For the next part of the video, I want to talk about a few facts that I know to be true about skill-based matchmaking, at least based on my testing, my results, and my data, and I think I've worked on this topic more than any single person in the community. I've put weeks, months of effort into this, mindlessly crunching data points. It was painful, droll, boring, and I think I've got the best data that anybody has outside of breaking into Demonware in the UK and stealing their servers. Fact number 1 is that Call of Duty does indeed match people based on skill in some capacity. I've said this since the beginning of forever, and you're gonna say, whoa, hold up, wait a minute now. You just spent forever telling us that skill-based matchmaking was the boogeyman, and it was this crystals and shamans and the Loch Ness monster. Now you're saying it's real? You literally just said it matches people based on skill. You're a huge hypocrite, and I hate you. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments right there, but no. That is a technical point. Reality is more complex, and I have to follow it up with other stuff because some things in the world are more complicated than yes-no answers or do A get B, do X get Y. The real world can be quite complicated. Fact number 2 is that skill-based matchmaking roughly has a few brackets for players, including a special potato bracket for new players and/or gamers who may or may not be disabled. This is a bracket that you can get into by reverse boosting. That's fact number 3. It's abusable to some extent. You can reverse boost your way by committing suicide down into the potato bracket, or you can get a modded account and just sort of exploit the system because you're throwing crazy numbers at the algorithm. However, point number 4, and the important one, is that it has not been scientifically proven to be hard skill-based matchmaking for all players, such as if you have a 4 KD, you match against a 4 KD. If you have a 2 KD, it's a 2 KD, a 0.5, a 0.5, or score per minute or whatever. It is not a hard match in any way. It has not been proven to force people into out-of-region matches or to make your games laggier. And I'll add a little asterisk there. I don't know if I'm trying to make asterisks with my hands on that one. COD does have very generous lag brackets or buckets. You're put in little brackets of your skill and little brackets of your ping and stuff like that. And to get a better skill match, it may choose a lesser quality service and a server, and you're going to say, wait a minute, that's proof that it's lagging. It could choose a server that's like 2 milliseconds more ping to have a much more accurate skill match, and there's no way to even measure that. You would have to get like a 500 FPS camera somehow to measure the difference in input delays. It's so minor, and I have personally found that skill matches are accurate up to about, and I've personally found that it really doesn't break people out of about 25 to 30 milliseconds of extra ping, which given how the engine and all this other weird stuff in the game works, you just about can't tell or feel. It is possible, also, on top of this isn't one of my facts, but just like a theory, maybe the beta's been out for 4 days. Maybe people that had to experience a totally new Call of Duty game have finally learned how to play this game. They've learned the new skills necessary, they've leveled up their guns, they've tried the stuff, they've learned the maps, and after a couple of days of playing, holy shit, they improved. Mind blown, it's crazy. Maybe they get on YouTube and watch some tip videos, like in depth or whatever. That's probably what happened, but from this factual standpoint, most of you will be surprised as to why I insist that skill-based matchmaking doesn't exist, because I just told you that it matches people based on skill, and it can cause you to have a little bit more ping. This is because the issue is complex. A simple yes or no won't suffice. J-Hub would probably like to argue me down on semantics until the end of time, until it reaches a yes-no answer, but that isn't helpful. I believe that reality is complex, and sometimes answers and truths can be complex too. As such, I will adamantly insist that skill-based matchmaking does not exist in the form that the community thinks it does. It exists in some capacity, it's real in some way, but the community seems to think it's all sorts of crazy stuff. And because they think that, sort of acknowledging skill-based matchmaking or humoring them leads to very chaotic results. And that's why Infinity Ward doesn't address it at all. Infinity Ward has nothing to say about skill-based matchmaking. If they confirm or deny in any capacity, it's just going to lead to so many people reverse boosting. It's going to ruin their game. And the reality of the thing is that it is a very complex system. It's thousands of lines of code with like a giant matrix equation of inputs. Most of you probably don't even know what a matrix equation is. Sorting it through millions of players constantly. It's not a simple thing that will just be like 2KD, 2KD. There's so much more going on to it than that. But what's most important is what the community thinks is going on. The community thinks that skill-based matchmaking is a hard KD or score per minute matchmaking, such that if you have a high KD and a high score per minute, you're only going to match with good players and very few, if any, bad players. As you get better, your lobbies will progressively get harder until you plateau, like a ranked system. And on top of this, they believe that skill-based matchmaking will override connections and force you into high-skill overseas lobbies. It'll put you into laggier lobbies stateside. It will put you with people who cheat more frequently, since cheaters tend to have better stats. It's going to put you in lobbies with only pro players and YouTubers. Skill-based matchmaking adjusts your ping and adds artificial delay to balance you out. Skill-based matchmaking was created by Activision to sell more microtransactions by catering to bad kids. Skill-based matchmaking is the reason I'm getting melted all the time. Skill-based matchmaking is the reason the frame drops on my PlayStation or Xbox, because they don't want good players to get good frame rates. And in the very near future, when we have crossplay, I guarantee you, everybody's going to say that skill-based matchmaking is going to be the reason that they're getting matched with PC players, and they won't even consider the fact that they've got a keyboard plugged into their PlayStation or Xbox. Essentially, none of those things that I listed of what the community believes skill-based matchmaking is or does is true, and the vast majority of them cannot be proved or properly tested outside of Activision doing it on their end, because there's essentially nothing that we can work with on our end except going into a shit ton of lobbies and recording our little data on Excel, hoping to find a trend. But because the community believes this, the consequences of this belief are dire. The biggest consequence is reverse boosting. Yes, reverse boosting is very real. I'll tell you that here today. You can kill yourself a whole crap load of times, and eventually you will get into a crappier lobby with players that are not very skilled. Typically, as the system is designed, you won't stay in that lobby very long because your skill balance is out, and I know that it considers your recent matches as well, and you'll get moved out of the protected pool. If I go around telling people that skill-based matchmaking is real and it has simple KD matchmaking, and that by killing yourself and tanking your KD you'll get, potatoes, then there will be hundreds of thousands of people reverse boosting like crazy, and it will absolutely ruin the game. That's why Infinity Ward doesn't talk about this. It'll ruin the game for newbies because they'll have really good players in their lobbies, and it'll make it not fun for me to play because there'll be a whole bunch of people on my team just committing suicide over and over and over again, not participating in the game. YouTubers will just go out of their way to buy botted accounts that have like negative infinity bajillion deaths so that they can earn nukes against potato players and tell them, put it on their channel and be like, oh my god, I'm great at this game. Side note, if you're a gameplay channel, Pub Stomper, whatever, and you get your gameplay from reverse boosted lobbies, fuck you. You're a bad person because you spoil other people's fun. The only way that you make your money or that you have fun is by shitting on other people that are new to the game and don't have any experience. It's like being a professional bully. And I also think that makes you weak. If you don't like it, that's too bad. That's how I feel about it, and I think that's fucking factual. And I know that I'm going to see some of these pub stars in the next event. I know they're going to tell me they bought me reverse boosted accounts, and I'll tell you the exact same thing in person, that earning your revenue through hurting people or having fun through ruining other people's fun makes you a shitty person. The same goes for everybody else here on this YouTube channel. If the only way that you can have fun in Call of Duty is by winning all of your games and dropping nukes all the time, that makes you childish. It makes you immature, and it makes you a bad person to want to cheat to boost your ego in every single capacity. I do empathize with those of you that are in sweaty lobbies all the time and you're like, I want to have a chill game, I don't want to sweat all the time, I want to screw around a little bit, and I empathize with that. But there is a section of the community that just they feel that they deserve nukes, that nukes are just owed to them, and that any method of acquiring them is acceptable. But that's not all. People will blame skill-based matchmaking for every single laggy death, every bad ping, every weird jitter, every time the game has a little fart or a hiccup. Well, that was skill-based matchmaking kicking in, adjusting everything for me. Every time you hear a foreign voice, oh, that was skill-based matchmaking. Every time you see a guy with a new fancy microtransaction, skill-based matchmaking. The whole community will scapegoat this thing until the end of time, and it's gonna get toxic as fuck, as if it isn't already toxic. So then the next thing is you'll tell me, so you're saying it's real, but you're lying to the community for its own benefit? No, I'm simply refusing to tell the community what they want to hear. And the best analogy that I can make on this one is the anti-vaccine movement, which I've done several videos about before. When you ask me about vaccines on stream or in videos, I will tell you that vaccines are safe, effective, and they are good for everyone, and this is as scientifically proven and historically proven as just about anything can be. If you don't vaccinate your children, you are a terrible person. Not vaccinating your children puts their life at risk. It also contributes to the return of a variety of terrible diseases that were nearly extinct in the last 50 years, and most importantly, puts other people's children at risk because some kids are born with immunodeficiencies, more than you would think actually, and they can't get vaccines until a little bit later in life, and your stupid kid running around with measles because you think that you're fucking intellectual and you know everything is going to give a disease to a kid that's already immunocompromised and they're going to die. Your ignorance could cost your child's life or several other children's lives. And believing that vaccines cause autism or vaccines kill kids relies on the same anecdotal, feelings-based, bad science bullshit that skill-based matchmaking does. So, I said that to have to get to the next point. What about the science of vaccines possibly causing harm for a whole wide variety of reasons? The vast majority of them are completely bullshit, but if you want me to get super scientific, to put my nerd glasses on and get technical with you here today, I will have to tell you, as true as I can, that it is possible that some children could have negative reactions to vaccines. And I will tell you that the evidence for this is pretty light, so light in fact that there's hardly any samples to study, and I did sit down and do a real critical overview of this myself from just tons and tons of, I must have read 500 pages of papers on this one. The risk of getting harmed from a vaccine is maybe 1 in 10 million, if that, and there's so few people to study, it's difficult to say if it's even that high. When I make my videos telling people that vaccines are safe and that not vaccinating your children is dumb, I oftentimes won't include this fact. Not because I wish to be dishonest, but because I know damn good and well that a huge percentage of the population does not understand those odds. They have no idea what 1 in 10 million looks like, and they are too small-minded to see the overall gain from vaccines or herd immunity or benefit to the greater society or risk to others. Most people prefer very simple X equals Y, do A, get B, very plain A-B relationships, and their brains can't handle really complex stuff. Most people get scared very easily, and reasonably so. We have evolved to avoid danger. That's why politicians rely on very simple phrases. This happens on both sides of the aisle. They all have their little catchphrases, and those catchphrases are not for people above 100 IQ. You hear them, you know, you're bored, you're like, oh my god, this is a joke, because it is a fucking joke. It's not for you. It's for the other half of the population that's too stupid to understand what the hell's going on. A mother will hear that maybe there's a 1 in 10 million chance that her kid might get some kind of reaction to the vaccine and just completely back out and panic and not vaccinate her kids and completely overlook the near 10% chance that her kid gets some sort of horrible disease that could kill the child or literally cripple it for life. The mother often won't think about, I'm stereotyping women, it can be husbands too, won't think about the possibility of hurting other kids, or that it would be her fault that they hurt kids, or his fault, or think about what would happen if everybody didn't vaccinate. We'd go back to the early 1900s, bro. The Spanish flu would wipe out 15% of the whole population every other year. So that message that vaccines maybe could cause harm in some small percentage of the population, maybe, but we don't understand it super well yet, is true in a super technical sense, but it's ultimately very harmful because of human nature and because people don't understand it and because they want to believe what they want to believe. They just want to feel validated, and they will latch onto anything to validate that. By that same train of logic, I will not tell the Call of Duty community that skill-based matchmaking is the cause of all of their woes. I don't care if all 25 million people next year want to tell me that I'm wrong and that skill-based matchmaking is real and it's ruining everything. I won't do it because that's not true. The truth of the situation is that it's very complex. So complex, actually, that even with all of my degrees, with my 10 years of working on COD, with my calculus and matrix, this and that, linear algebra is what you'd really call it, and statistics and whatever, that I'm probably underqualified to explain how complex a big sorting algorithm like that really is. You would probably need a data scientist or perhaps a mathematician. I don't even know if a programmer would be properly qualified. The programmer is probably just making what the mathematician makes. They're the ones that build these things. And saying that A equals B and something that complex is just bullshit. And the reality of skill-based matchmaking is that it's not the reason you're getting melted every game. You're getting matched with players somewhere similar in your bracket, give or take a fair bit, and they're coming in from all over the world with like a bajillion factors all the time. And if you matched with only great players all day, every day, every player in the game would just average back to 1. If you have a 5 KD and you match with 5 KD players, you're going to eventually move back down because you can't all maintain a 5 KD against each other. Skill-based matchmaking overriding connections to any noticeable degree would be squashed by any programmer that has more than 2 brain cells to rub together. And in my personal opinion, I think that we need the special protected bracket in order to grow the community. There are children there, there are people with disabilities there are first-time gamers there are first-time ever on the sticks people playing in that bracket, and they need to be there for like a couple of games or days or weeks or whatever to get used to it and move on out, and it's like a tiny little sliver of the community anyway. So, let's be reasonable about this whole thing. If you've watched this whole video, which is largely me being angry and somewhat unreasonable, let's try to have a reasonable solution at the end. We don't want to just be an angry mob that demands a bunch of random crap. There is some kind of skill matchmaking. It has to exist in some capacity to protect the lower skilled players. The thing that you should be asking for, instead of flaming devs, flaming YouTubers, blaming every loss that you get on skill-based matchmaking, is if you don't like it, you should ask for skill-based matchmaking to be toned down. That's the word I would use, and the more technical explanation would be you should allow for a looser fit of the skill brackets, which would increase the overall randomness of your matches. It would still allow for skill brackets, but your matches would get more randomness in their players, which is what the community wants. And you should also very adamantly demand that connection take top priority over skill. This should be true of every game, every year, everywhere. A good connection should take top priority over skill outside of a ranked playlist. The ranked playlist has to be elo based, but in any normal public match it should just give you a good connection. Those are the two very reasonable things that you should demand. You don't have to get in like giant fucking flame wars on Reddit and flame community people and get pissed off about it and think it's a giant conspiracy and hate every YouTuber that doesn't agree with you. That's stupid. Oh boy, I've ranted for 25 minutes here. I've gone on and on and on about it, but I hope that I've explained my position succinctly, and I hope that you all learned something useful today. If you did enjoy this kind of content, on the off chance that you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.